morning. Start your day informed and ahead. Today is Monday, the 22nd of June. I'm Angela Lagunzad-Castro.
And I'm Cesca Litton-Kalaw. We are bringing you the perfect mix of the headlines you need and the conversations that shape your day.
From the news desk to the digital space, we have got you covered. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and welcome to Morning Matters.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Yes.
How was your weekend?
Belated Happy Father's Day.
Yes, to all our dads. Of course, to Diego.
Yes, of course. There's a lot of people yesterday, which is expected because, of course, we celebrated Father's Day with, of course, late lunch and with movie. We watched Toy Story.
Oh, that was fun.
You know, Toy Story was premiered 1995.
Okay, so it's 30 years. It's
Yes.
31 years because that's the year I was born.
Oh, wow!
Were you born then?
31 years na ang Toy Story.
Yun. So you will see some contents in social media. The young ones are saying na, I'm sorry, yung mga parents are saying na, I was watching this when I was a kid. Now, I'm finally watching Toy Story 5, Part 5 with my kid.
Did Mio enjoy the movie? Kahit medyo, teenager na eh.
Oh, but he loves
watching cartoons.
He's still watching cartoons.
Yeah. What about you? Father's Day?
We just spent Father's Day with my dad at his house. Ayaw namin makigulo outside. So
Sometimes it's even better, di ba? Where you can spend time with your family at home. It's more comfortable. Yeah. Kami, we went ahead of the rush yesterday. So inunahan na namin. Saturday pa lang, nag-dinner na
That's a
kami.
good idea
Advance
also. But of course, since the weekend is over, it's time to get back on track. Let's begin with the second day of the pre-trial conference for the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte. Both the prosecution and defense panels are expected to continue marking documentary evidence ahead of the trial proper. Duterte's defense team says documents on the bribery and the threats articles have already been marked, while more time is needed for the voluminous records on the alleged misuse of funds and unexplained wealth. The House Prosecution Panel says it is focused on preparing a convincing presentation of evidence. The first day saw heated exchanges between the prosecution and defense, but both camps still move forward in marking evidence, identifying witnesses, and streamlining issues ahead the July 6 trial. The pre-trial proceedings are expected to wrap up either today or tomorrow. Yeah, so again, for context, the pre-trial is a very important process before proceeding to the trial itself. This is actually the first time that the prosecution panel and the defense are, facing together to discuss the evidence, to mark the evidence, to stipulate the facts, etc. But of course, there were rumors online, there were articles online regarding the heated exchange between the two panels. Meron pang isa pa akong nabasa doon, sinabi nung isa na nilampaso daw ng defense team, yung prosecution. And then earlier today...
strong word.
Oo, nilampaso. And then earlier today, I was able to talk to Congressman Reneco, the spokesperson for the prosecution panel, and she said that parang sinabi niya, tunuglata lang naman din yung mga chismis na naririnig nila. But of course, one thing is for sure na kailangan talagang pag-usapan ahead of the trial is yung threshold ng voting. There are a lot of, opinions about it. And we all know na nakalagay doon sa Constitution, 2/3 ang kailangan, which is 16 votes. But of course, some legal luminaries are saying na, okay, dapat talaga 16 yun, pero what if, diba, there are senators na hindi makapag-participate. But others are saying also na, it doesn't say in the Constitution. The only time na ma-exempt ang mga senador is, of course, maging hindi na sila senador, mamatay or sick, diba? Yun. Pero as long as they are still senator, even if they are detained, they're still allowed to vote.
differing opinions nga on what the threshold is. But even Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian said last week na the 12-person quorum was legal through the Avellino Doctrine, but it doesn't apply to impeachment court. But we have other legal experts saying na yun na nga, just 2/3. So, ito na naman tayo.
Well, si House Prosecution Panel Lead, Chairperson, si Congresswoman Jerby Luis said this is a matter that they could potentially raise before the Supreme Court. But She also mentioned that she's not sure if this will be a justiciable issue because of the separation of powers of our government branches. So that could be an issue that will be tackled eventually in the impeachment trial. But for now, since we are focusing on the pre-trial conference, this is where they will thresh out all the issues, right? So Attorney Michael Poe of the defense team says hopefully they will finish everything today. They will still tackle 2 remaining articles, right? That's the misuse of confidential funds and unexplained wealth. And he said, no, na normal naman yung mga tensions na yan when they don't agree on certain facts, on certain evidence. But that's part of the process. He said it's nothing personal, it's just work. So tingnan natin kung matatapos nila yan today because in the next 2 Mondays, mangyayari na yung impeachment trial, July 6th.
And this is still close to the public and the media, correct?
Yes, for so many reasons. But yun nga, it is really still important to talk about yung threshold ng voting because at the end of the day, yun ang kinakailangan to convict or acquit somebody, diba, who is being impeached. So, ang sinasabi nga nila dito, paano, anong mangyayari? And of course, yung usapin din ng presiding officer, etc. So, the petition of Senator Alan Cayetano on the kung to nullify yung nangyari ng June 3 could also somehow answer also itong question na to. Kaya sinasabi nila sana hopefully the Supreme Court could release ruling na on this para pagdating dun sa mismong impeachment ayos na. Kasi ang hirap naman in the middle of the trial, di ba? Doon pa sila magtalo-talo.
Baka maging cause of delay pa yan in the impeachment trial. All right, but here's another issue we need to talk about. Iran announced that it would once again close the Strait of Hormuz, citing what it described as ongoing Israeli military operations in Lebanon. Iranian authorities accused Israel of violating the truce and claimed that the United States had failed to fulfill its commitments under a recently signed agreement aimed at reducing tensions in the Middle East. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps warned vessels against entering the strategic waterway. And the announcement came just before talks between U.S. and Iranian officials began in Switzerland. And at the opening of the talks, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance expressed optimism that the discussions could lead to progress on Iran's nuclear program and ceasefire efforts in southern Lebanon.
Never before has the Iranian and American leadership met at such a high level. What the president has asked us to do is turn over a new leaf, to transform our relationship with the people of Iran and to extend an outstretched hand that says to the people of Iran that if your leadership is willing to give up being a driver of regional instability, if they are willing to give up nuclear weapons ambitions for the long term, then the United States is willing to fundamentally transform our relationship with that country. That is certainly our goal.
All right, so once again, we are seeing mixed signals in the Middle East. You have Iran saying that they are closing the Strait of Hormuz because of renewed tensions between Israel and Lebanon. And then you also have the United States saying that it's open. Many vessels are still passing. In fact, over the weekend, the United States said that millions of barrels of oil were still able to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, again, this is important for us here in the Philippines, even though we're miles and miles away from the Middle East, right? Because the Strait of Hormuz is a vital passage, right? And we import most of our oil from the Middle East. And we were hopeful last week that it will stabilize already because of the peace talks between the United States and Iran. But then again, there's a lot of uncertainty. We will continue to monitor the oil prices because, this week magkakaroon ng rollback, right? A big-time rollback. But because there is a lot of questions that remain unanswered, we're going to have to wait and see what could happen.
And we talked about this nga last week. We interviewed an economic advisor also regarding
Angelo,
the effects on fuel prices, food prices, everything trickles down. But the agreement alone was for a 60-day ceasefire. But even then, questions and concerns were raised. And U.S. President Trump also threatened to impose tolls. So he said na no tolls for 60 days during ceasefire period, no tolls after 60-day period has expired unless imposed by and for the USA should the deal not be completed. So how is this going to affect discussions moving forward. I know the contingent has been meeting in Switzerland also. But the delegation, Iranian delegation said that they're there to follow up implementation of the existing deal.
Yeah, right.
Not begin the second phase of negotiations. So hindi pa tapos nung...
Yeah, oo.
Well, the problem here is that Iran kasi holds the control of the Strait of Hormuz. So, sila yung may leverage talaga dito pagdating sa usapin. And of course, pag titignan mo yung parang agreement nila, sinasabi nga nila na, of course, Iran is asking for all hostilities to be paused, diba? Ang nangyayari naman sa Israel, for them, parang hindi po pwede yun because ang Hezbollah is ready to attack them anytime. And they can't allow that to happen. And of course, sabi nga nila, this may stop, diba, the hostilities, etc. Pero yung mga underlying conditions and that agreement is not yet being, you know, hindi talaga yun yung
Settled.
pinaka na pag-uusapan nila. Like for example, yung Iran, yung nuclear program ng Iran, 'di ba? They're still saying, they're still you know, reiterating that their nuclear program is for peaceful strategy, 'di ba? Yun ang sinasabi nila. Pero pagdating naman ng, of course, sinasabi ng US and Iran, teka muna kasi yung ano mo yung enriched level of uranium mo ay 60%, which is malapit doon sa paggawa ng nuclear weapon. So yung ito talaga yung talagang nagpipigil dito sa usapin na ito.
All right. And in sports, Eman Bacosa Pacquiao suffered the second loss of his professional career after Rodelin Perez secured a majority decision victory to claim the vacant Philippine Boxing Federation Lightweight Championship. The defeat ended his 8-fight winning streak and marked a setback in his bid for early professional success. The son of boxing legend Manny Pacquiao started strongly, pressing forward in the opening rounds and landing clean shots to control the early exchanges. However, Perez shifted the momentum in the second round, scoring a knockdown with a powerful combination before adding 2 more knockdowns in the 5th round to take command of the bout. Despite the knockdown, Eman showed resilience and fought through to the final bell, but Perez earned the victory. So this is actually the second time they've faced, yun na nga. So si Perez actually lost to Eman last October 2024 via majority decision also.
Okay.
So bumawi si Eman this
win,
time around.
kumbaga.
Yes. But Eman kasi came from, so he last had a draw back in 2023. And then from that draw, dire-diretso na siya na unbeaten. So this is his first loss in quite some time.
He was floored thrice, no?
Knockdown.
Well, obviously, that's not the result he wanted, but it's exactly these kinds of fights that will build his character and experience moving forward. Kasi I can only imagine the pressure that Eman is also feeling, right? Aside from wanting to win a title, you're also carrying Manny Pacquiao's name, right?
Pacquiao name.
So I'm sure may pressure din dyan. But of course, best of luck to Eman. Sana maging lesson to sa kanya moving forward.
And then, of course, sinasabi nung iba, of course, maraming mga bashing and everything, no, na parang, kasi hindi siya nagko-concentrate sa laban niya, sa training niya. Parang naguguluhan na ata siya kung ano ba ang gusto niya, mag-artista ba siya o mag-focus dito sa boxing. But of course, this is his decision. Diba? Whatever happens, kanya to, diba? So I
Pwede
think naman
naman
this is a
din
learning curve para din sa kanya, para pagdating sa next game niya. Ano ba yung, kailan ba, do we know?
I don't
When is
know
the
if he
next
has a
game?
next fight.
Oo, anong
Game talaga.
Ay, game talaga. Fight, diba? Ano ang significance itong fight na to sa kanyang standing?
this
May
was
mga
a
ganun
title
ba?
match kasi. But and I'm sure he's going to have many more opportunities. All right, don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a short break.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Now on to the weather. Typhoon Francisco intensifies further as it accelerates over the Philippine Sea. Its center was last spotted 715 kilometers east of Tuguegarao City, Cagayan. The typhoon packs winds of up to 140 kilometers per hour and gustiness of up to 170 kph. Francisco will likely remain over the Philippine Sea throughout the forecast period. and it will exit the Philippine Area of Responsibility by Friday. For now, signal number 1 is up over Batanes and the northeastern portion of Cagayan, including the eastern portion of the Babuyan Islands. And now to discuss what the typhoon could bring in the coming hours, we are joined by Pag-asa weather specialist Dan Villamil. Good morning, Dan. Ano na ba ang latest dito kay Typhoon Francisco?
Good morning, Pauline, at sa ating mga taga-subaybay. So, latest location natin para kay Francisco as of 4 a.m. Nasa layong 715 kilometers silangan ng Tuguegarao City sa May, Cagayan. May taglay itong lakas ng hangin na malapit sa gitna na umaabot ng 140 kilometers per hour, pagbugso na umaabot ng 170 kilometers per hour. At sa kasalukuyan, gumagalaw ito west-northwestward sa bilis sa 30 kilometers per hour. As of 5 a.m. may nakataas tayong tropical cyclone wind signal number 1 sa Batanes, northeastern portion ng Cagayan, sa mga bayan ng Gonzaga at Santa Ana, kabilang na ang eastern portion ng Babuyan Islands. Kaya sa mga lugar na ito, asahan po natin yung mga pagbugso ng hangin na dulot ng bagyo within the next 36 hours. In terms naman of heavy rainfall, ay mga malalakas na pag-ulan dahil sa epekto ng southwest monsoon na habagat na kasalukuyang hinahatak ng bagyo. Asahan natin yung mga kaulapan at mga kalat-kalat na thunderstorms sa malaking bahagi ng Visayas, Mindanao at sa may Palawan. Sa Metro Manila at nalalabing bahagi ng Luzon, generally fair weather muli ang ating inaasahan for today, pero nandiyan pa rin mga tsansa ng mga biglaan at panandaliang pag-ulan na dulot ng thunderstorms pagsapit ng hapon hanggang sa gabi. At sa kalagayan ng ating karagatan sa kasalukuyan, walang nakataas na gale warning pero iba yung pag-iingat pa rin sa ating mga kababayan na maglalayag, especially dito sa eastern seaboards ng Luzon dahil makaranas pa rin tayo dyan ng katamtaman hanggang sa maalong karagatan na dulot ni Bagyong Francisco. Pauline?
Okay, Dan, may chance bang mag-landfall itong si Francisco dito sa atin?
Less likely namang mag-landfall ito kaso yung sentro po kasi niya yung sentro nitong si Bagyong Francisco posibleng lumapit sa ilang portions sa extreme northern Luzon kaya nagtaas po tayo ng tropical cyclone wind signal kaninang madaling araw. So sa mga nabanggit ko pong lugar kanina, asan po natin yung mga gusts of wind na dulot ng bagyo within the next 36 hours.
At Dan, may chance rin ba na mag-intensify itong si Francisco sa mga susunod na oras?
Actually, magpapatuloy yung intensification nito, no? So yung peak intensity nito posibleng makamit within the next 48 hours. So posibleng umabot up to 165 kilometers per hour yung ating maximum sustained winds na dala ng bagyo.
At Dan, ito bang heavy rains pati yung mga strong winds na nararanasan sa northern part ng bansa, isolated lamang ba yan sa area na yan o may mga ibang lugar din na maapektuhan at posibleng malagay sa signal number 1?
Yung mga nabanggit ko pong lugar kanina, particularly over Visayas, Mindanao at Palawan, ito po yung mga lugar na maapektuhan ng southwest monsoon na habagat na hinahatak ni Bagyong Francisco. No? Pero for Metro Manila and the rest of Luzon, wala naman tayong mga inaasahang sustained na pag-ulan, yung mga usual afternoon to evening na mga thunderstorms ang ating mararanasan.
Okay, Dan, ano po bang mga precautions ang dapat maalala ng mga residente pati ng mga LGU?
Patuloy po tayong umantabay sa mga updates na pinapalabas ng Pag-asa, especially yung mga localized advisories natin, especially dito sa area ng Northern Luzon na kung saan posible tayong makaranas ng mga pag-ulan at mga hangin na dulot itong bagyo in the coming days. Yung mga localized advisories na to, tulad ng rainfall advisories or yung mga color-coded na heavy rainfall warnings ay pinupost naman po yan sa ating social media accounts.
And on track pa rin ba na umalis ng Philippine Area of Responsibility itong si Typhoon Francisco sa Biyernes?
Yes po. So by Friday, yung ating expected exit nitong bagyo ng ating PAR.
At maliban dito kay Typhoon Francisco, may iba pa bang binabantayan na sama ng panahon ang Pag-asa?
Actually, sa labas ng ating PAR, may binabantayan pa tayong isang low pressure area. Latest location natin, more than 2,000 kilometers east ng southeastern Luzon. So low chance na maging bagyo at mananatiling malayo naman ito sa ating kapuluan.
At tama ba na ang rainfall para sa buwan ng Hunyo ay hindi pa natin naaabot yung forecast na rainfall level?
For June, yung ating projection for most of the country ay near normal. Tapos for July, inaasahan natin yung above normal rainfall conditions dito sa kanlurang bahagi ng Luzon.
Alright, maraming salamat para sa update na yan. That was Pag-asa Weather Specialist Dan Villamil. Now, in other news, the International Criminal Court Trial Chamber 3 has issued detailed protocols governing the upcoming trial of former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. In a 23-page decision issued on June 19, the court set deadlines for key pre-trial submissions, including trial briefs that will contain witness lists. The prosecution must file its brief by August 31, and victims' representatives by September 28, and the defense by October 30. The trial is scheduled to begin on November 30, starting with opening statements from all parties, followed by the presentation of witness testimony and evidence. The judges also approved guidelines for how evidence will be presented and how witnesses will be protected, including rules for confidential testimony and closed-door sessions when necessary. Now, as classes resume, teachers are adjusting to the rollout of the DepEd's ILAW framework, with some seeking stronger training and support. Mobile journalist Daniel Dayaw tells us more in this report.
As classes resume under the new 3-term school calendar, teachers are also adjusting to another major change, the implementation of the ILAW framework. While the Department of Education says the new system is designed to simplify lesson planning, some educators say the transition requires a more comprehensive training.
It is difficult for us teachers na kung saan ay nag-a-adjust kami sa ILAW format, no? Batay po doon sa mga nababasa kong articles, sa mga post ng DepEd ay talagang confident po sila nagsasabi na pinagaan, pinalinaw itong ILAW format. But the problem is the training is not sufficient simply because yung orientation po sa amin is one day and at the same time ay virtual pa.
And while orientations were conducted, some teachers say they still need more time and a deeper understanding of the framework's implementation.
Hapyawan lang po yung ILAW framework. Hindi po talaga siya nakafocus sa ILAW framework lang. Inilatag nila lahat ng pagbabago ng yon ng isahan, pero walang pagsasanay na naganap. Kailangan talaga na bigyan ng focus yung ILAW framework. Gayong kami po kasing mga guro yung gagamit at gagawa nito.
The ILAW framework is built around 4 key components: intentions, learning experience, assessing learning, and ways forward, aiming to streamline lesson planning. However, DepEd clarifies that ILAW is not a new template, as it still allows teachers to retain their existing formats, as long as the core components are present. Yet for educators, adjusting to the new approach will take time and more.
Kailangan magbigay po sila ng sapat na training para dito sikaping magbigay pa ng mas malinaw na guidelines at patuloy pong konsultasyon sa mga guro.
Yung mga tools gamit na pwede po namin magamit, software, digital tools na available po sa mga teachers para nang sa ganun po ay may magagamit din ng teachers at hindi po iba-iba ang interpretasyon. Kasi interpretasyon po ang number one problem eh.
In the end, DepEd acknowledges the adjustment challenges, assuring teachers that technical support will continue throughout the implementation.
I want to emphasize that we are companions. We are walking with them through the implementation of the different policies. We sincerely believe that the policies will do all of us well, that the policies will help in the attainment of learning outcomes.
Kapatid Mobile Journal, Daniel Dayaw, we are One News.
And as we mentioned earlier, Eman Bacosa Pacquiao's first professional title bid ends in defeat as Rodelyn Perez pulls off a majority decision win in their lightweight championship bout. Mobile journalist Denise Valdez-Sancho has this report.
Eman Bacosa Pacquiao's first shot at a professional title ended in heartbreak after suffering a majority decision loss to Rodelyn Perez in their bout for the vacant Philippine Boxing Federation Lightweight Championship Sunday night in Muntinlupa. The son of 8th Division World Champion Manny Pacquiao entered the fight as the favorite, bringing an impressive record and an 8-fight winning streak into the championship match. Days before the bout, Bacosa Pacquiao expressed confidence in his preparation and said the title fight was a chance to test his growth as a boxer.
Excited po ako na magpakitang gilas bukas din. Tsaka super thankful ako kasi winelcome ako ng mga tao dito. Kasi first title fight ko rin to. Gusto ko rin makita yung improvements ko sa training tsaka sa mga resulta ng training ko. Yun. Gusto ko rin malaman kung hanggang saan na yung skills and boxing IQ ko. So, yun.
The young Pacquiao started strong, controlling the early exchanges with clean shots. But Perez quickly turned the tide to take control of the fight in the succeeding rounds. At the weigh-in, Perez revealed their camp had studied Pacquiao closely in preparation for the championship match.
Siyempre po, binagkandahan po namin yan ng coach namin tsaka ng mga kasama ko sa gym. Pinag-aralan namin yung mga galawan ni Eman para may panalo yung laban.
Despite the 3 knockdowns, Bacosa Pacquiao fought back and continued to trade punches until the final bell, when the scorecards were read. Perez emerged victorious via majority decision. For the Philippine Boxing Federation, the bout was a major draw for local fans, who turned out to see one of the country's most promising young boxers in action.
Naging inspirasyon siya ng mga upcoming boxers na sana maging katulad din siya ni Eman. Hindi lang sa larangan ng boxing dahil alam naman natin na si Eman nasa showbiz na rin. So, another opportunity para kay Eman at nakikita ng mga boksingero na may iba palang mundo.
Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho, We Are One News.
And when we return later at 9:30 a.m., attorney Salvador Tranquil joins us as we continue to discuss the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte.
Good morning mga kapatid, I'm Angela Lagunzad-Castro. As we know, the pre-trial conference for the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte resumes today at the Senate. Both the prosecution and defense panels are expected to continue marking evidence and streamlining issues ahead of the trial proper on July 6. This comes after a tense first day of pre-trial where both camps clashed over some matters but still moved forward in identifying evidence, witnesses, and issues to be taken up during the impeachment trial. The proceedings may wrap up today or continue until Tuesday. To help us understand the pre-trial process and the legal issues surrounding the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte, we are joined by Attorney Tranquil Salvador, one of the defense lawyers during the historic impeachment trial of the late Chief Justice Renato Corona. Good morning, Attorney Salvador. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning, Angela.
Attorney, based on your experience in the Corona impeachment trial, how important is the pre-trial conference in shaping the actual trial?
You know, I would recall that during the impeachment of Chief Justice Corona, there was no pre-trial. You know, because there was this automatic vote of 1/3. I remember it was time, if you would remember, no, yung 1/3 very critical yan. It did not go through the Committee on Justice anymore. So they were able to get 1/3 to concur to the complaint, impeachment complaint, and that was actually converted to the articles of impeachment. So I recall sometime in December, he was impeached. There was, I think, around before the 15th of December of 2011, before their recess. Thereafter, when we returned, pagbalik ng sesyon ng Senado, trial na. If I recall, parang so walang ganito.
But in this case, if there are disputes over documents, witnesses or stipulations like what happened last Friday, if I'm not mistaken, how can these affect the speed of the trial?
Well, syempre, the objective of the clerk of court, the objective of, I think it was Attorney Bantog, was that all of this evidence must be what? Must be marked. Yun ang objective na.
Right.
So syempre, the other party would object as to its relevancy, as to its inclusion in the list of documents. Magtatalo talaga yan. Okay, if I may try to imagine. So, kunyari, no, I don't, that document is irrelevant, sabihin na iba. That should not be part of your list of evidence. Let's say the prosecution would insist, no. So, ano mangyayari dyan? The trial comes in, the function of trial is much later. That is where the authenticity of documents, there is where the admissibility of evidence will have to be tested. So, I would think, no, that the clerk of court, in this case, Attorney Bandok, will say, sige, i-mark natin. Yun ang nakikita ko. evidence at this early time, di ba?
So everything that is presented during the pre-trial, kailangan po yun ay ma-present sa actual trial at wala pong dapat na surprise evidence. Tama po?
That is the objective of a pre-trial. So the objective of pre-trial is to be able to mark all of your evidence or documents during pre-trial. So no matter how many these are, mamarkahan na yan. And then the other party will be asked to compare. Because the party presenting the evidence must also bring the original or the certified true copy. So the other party will be given the chance to examine the photocopy presented to them, plus the original, titignan nila, then they will have to manifest if this is the faithful reproduction of the original, and then it will be officially marked. So can you imagine the process?
Right.
So yung proseso na yan, madami. There will be so many documents. So it's good that they're doing a pre-trial so that it will hasten or somehow fast track the trial. Hindi na mamarkahan pa, hindi kung ano-ano pang gano'n.
But in the event, in the process, in the course of the trial itself, may lumabas po na maaaring ibigay as witness or document as evidence, will the impeachment court allows it or hindi na pwede?
So I think your question would be, considering that there is a pre-trial, all documents are to be marked, all witnesses will have to be identified, right? And or your question is, can I still present a document or documents or testimony of witnesses in the course of the trial, specifically, for instance, that the witness was not specifically identified during the pre-trial, left the sound discretion of the Senate as an impeachment court. Kasi sa ordinary trial, if I may, Angela, in an ordinary trial, if you fail to mark an evidence and if you fail to identify a witness, you can no longer present that evidence, that document, or that witness unless you make a reservation. And when I say a reservation, at least you have a good sense of what you will present in the future. So you will say, this is a description of the document, whatever document it is, duly signed by who, date, and so on. So the fact that it may not just be available now, then you can also reserve that of a witness testimony. Sabihin mo, this is his name and position, and probably we may consider them. So you have, that is to follow the rules of court, the rules of civil procedure. But again, in the impeachment rules, the impeachment is different from an ordinary proceedings, right?
Right.
And therefore, I would foresee that the senator judges or the presiding judge may, or the presiding officer who is the senator may decide in the interest of justice to hear or to accept documents or testimony.
Now, I would also like to ask you, Attorney, if I remember during the case or during the trial of the late Chief Justice Renato Corona, he was present there, in the trial itself. But of course, there are also talks right now na baka hindi pumunta si Vice President Sara Duterte. Is that even allowed in the Constitution na hindi po siya mag-appear doon sa mismong trial?
Good question. Although probably this is a jest kasi I don't know, probably you were very young then in college or a new graduate, no? But that was around 15 years ago, no? So if you would recall, during the time... I was
monitoring it, Attorney.
You were
already working.
You were working already, okay.
Go ahead po.
So, alam nyo, at that time, hindi naman everyday na nandun si Chief Justice. He monitors it, as you mentioned, we monitor, we give him updates, no? We give him updates, and thereafter, we will have to decide whether to present him. The critical path would be whether to present him during our presentation of evidence. So this is a question to be faced and to be answered by the defense team.
Right.
Ang tatanong nila sila, ipipresent na ba natin si VP? Yan ang tanong nila. Will it cause us benefit na ipresenta siya? Di ba? Benepisyo ba to? Or it will cause us more harm kung pinresenta natin siya? Siyempre, babalikan nila experience ni Chief Justice. Because when Chief Justice was presented at the time, it was not in a question and answer form. He just made a speech, a statement, nung mga panahon na yon. So, these are the things that they will be facing. And I think a very important question that they will have to meet on a political standpoint, I would assume na meron ito mga political advisor. This is one of the few and the rarest opportunity that a political figure will face the entire Philippines. Nakita ko yun kay CJ Coronel. Is he was not a politician. That's
Right.
one of the rarest opportunity. Imagine mo, politiko ka, nakaharap mo ang buong taong bayan, and you will say your spiel. You will tell your thoughts or kung
Right.
ano yun. So pag nakuha niya nakuha niya yung tao, yung pulso ng tao, ibang usapan kasi nga sinasabi ko, this is both a political
process, yeah.
constitutional, and a legal process.
Yeah.
So yan, hindi natin masagot ngayon kung
Right.
ipipresent siya. Pero, pain case scenario, no? Kasi baka tanongin mo na rin, paano kung hindi siya umapir?
Yes.
Well, trial. Tuloy ang trial, nakalagay sa impeachment rule. Pag hindi siya hindi umapir ang abogado niya, no? O let's say, umapir lang ang abogado niya, tuloy. Hindi siya umapir, tuloy. Kahit abogado lang. So, sa tanongin mo, pwede silang mag-proceed to judgment
Right.
at sila mag-vote? Yes.
But if you were to be asked, say for example, an advice for the Vice President, would you advise her to appear in the trial or wag na lang?
Alam mo, kung sa tingin ko ma-handle niya yung sitwasyon, iba yung nakaharap mo yun. Alam mo kasi, to this extent, I'll share to you.
Right.
I was the spokesperson at the time. One of the spokespersons. Nung nandun si Chief Justice, yung interest, it's so heightened talaga. Pakita mo, even the media personnel, mga media team, talagang they were messaging me. Sabi niya, okay to. Tama yung ginawa, ganito. So yung act of presence, malaking bagay. Ang critical is paano mo tatapusin yung presence mo. Alam mo, kasi noon, nahilo siya. And some people made a spin out of that. Hindi ba, hinuspital siya, tinakbo siya sa hospital at the time. Yung importante ron, so malaking bagay dito yung political team niya. Aside from the fact na yung legal team niya, bibigay ito, dapat lang sasabihin, ito cover natin, ito relevant evidence, kaya natin to. O kung kaya natin, sige, presenta natin si VP. Kasi pag nakuha niya yung damdamin ng tao, tapos yan. Tapos yan. Kaya lang, medyo may risk talaga. Di ba? May risk talaga.
And the risk is?
Well, pag hindi niya na-handle mabuti, mabilis na. Tapos baka tapusin na nila, magbotohan na yan. Kita nyo, totoo. Kita nyo, ginawa niya yan. Accountability. Kita. Kasi both sides, sila ready yan Siguro naman, alam mo yan, both sides, di ba?
Yes.
Sa social media, sila pareho. For any misstep, for any favorable statement, yung grupo nila iaangat yun, favorable. Pag for every misstep, yung kabila naman, ito, kita nyo, nagsisinungaling yan. It's far different from 2012, nung panahon namin. Kasi hindi pa ganun ka-critical yung social media noon. Alam mo yun, bagong-bago It was that social media was very at the time, di ba? So,
yeah, I remember.
Hindi na didikta, di ba?
Exactly. Yeah, I remember that time when he was rushed to the hospital. But of course, Attorney, I also want to ask you about your take on the threshold for voting in the impeachment trial. Ang laki pong diskusyon yan. No? Ang laki pong mga legal luminaries ang nagdiskusyon, sinasabi sa konstitusyon, kailangan 2/3, that is not variable. Pero pagdating po doon sa would they allow itong mga senador na wala dito sa plenaryo dahil for some different reasons, isa po ay nagtatago sa batas, yung isa ay may kaso, and iba pa pong mga dahilan. Ano po ba sa inyo pong legal opinion ang dapat sundin?
Ang personal ko po ay susundan ko lamang ang nakalagay sa saligang batas. Babanggitin ko po sa inyo, it's Article 11, Section 6, Section 3, Paragraph 6 ng ating saligang batas. Nakalagay doon, concurrence of what? Of all the members, 2/3 concurrence. So, ibig sabihin may affirmative na boto ng 16. Yun ang kailangan. So, let us paint the picture na wala na yung dalawa. Mabawasan pa yan. Ang dalawa pa. Sabihin mo na, 20. Hindi. This is, pa rin lang mo yan. This is maliban lamang. Yun nga yung legal question na palagay ko na tinututukan mo ngayon. Maliban lamang kung sila ay nag-resign, sila ay natanggal. Kaya nga meron dinidiscuss ng mga fugitive disentitlement. Nakita mo. Ngayon, akong tatanungin kasi dyan, I follow the Constitution if you believe that your position is defensible. You could advance your position, magaling dalhin nyo sa Korte Suprema. Kasi alam nyo, kaya ako ganito, the numbers there is not subject to the whim of the drafters. It's not subject to the whim of the drafters. That was carefully thought of because that maintains constitutional balance. That maintains institutional stability. Remember, you will be removing, as we have said, part of this is also a political process. So the framers were very careful that it will not be weaponized. Because if it was just a majority, ang dali mo tanggalin eh. Patapos binoto, tanggalin mo, majority, kami malakas eh. Diba?
Yeah.
But this time, it is a higher threshold that you will have to pass. That you will have to vote on. So sa aking pananaw, number one, sa akin ay 16. Okay, sa aking pananaw. Ayaw doon sa konstitusyon. Pangalawa, kung sa tingin nila, kasi may nagsasabi pa dyan, paano pwede ba bumoto vacant seat? Hindi nga eh. Kaya nga kahit mo maubos yun, ayoko na sabihin majority, minority, wala. Basta mabawasan niya ng 24, kahit pasabihin nyo na yung legal, yung nag-resign, yung may declaration, at the end of the day, 16 pa rin. Ngayon, ang tanong lamang, so lumiliit lang, hindi naman kasi dyan kailangan yung boto ng, siyempre boboto yung mga ibang senator for acquittal kung boboto man sila. Pero ang critical yun doon 16. Ngayon, kung sa tingin nilang meron mga alam ko, meron naman ako nababasa sa tingin nila, ganon. Dahil hindi naman dapat na ganun kataas ang threshold, dahil wala naman silang participation, didalhin nyo sa Supreme Court. Kasi po ito, kaya ako binabanggit na ganito, this is something that will outlive us eh. This provision is something that will outlive us unless
become precedent.
Yes, unless amended. This constitution is amended. Beyond our lifetime, ganyan. Gusto ba natin ganyan? Kapag may nagsabi lang, ganito, ito na yung susunod. Hindi ba? Dapat constitution. Dapat Supreme Court.
Yeah, Attorney, but what about the issue or the discussion about justiciable reach? When in fact, let's say for example, for Senator Jingo Estrada, who is now detained, pwede siyang bumoto because he is within the institution. But what about Senator Bato de la Rosa, who is in hiding right now? So parang kumbaga, pwede na siyang i-omit doon sa listahan ng 24 senators because we don't know where he is.
Kaya sinabi ko this discussion will not end. Alam mo yun? Kasi may mga pananaw sila na hindi naman nila tatanggapin. Kaya nga sabi ko, para maisaayos ito, pinakamaganda dalhin ninyo sa Supreme Court. Kasi we could have an hour of discussion and insist on a talking head. Alam mo, ganito yan. Whether it's for, against, but at the end of the day, what we want is a process that is reliable, is stable, and would strengthen our institutions. Hindi na lamang na bawat ganito gagawin natin. Masakit man. Siyempre, masakit matalo, di ba? Masakit nga yung matanggal si CJ Corona nga natanggal. Pero tinanggap niya yung proseso. So, ganun ang sistema ng isang bansa na nasa embraced or within a constitutional process.
Could the petition of Senator Alan Peter Cayetano to the Supreme Court regarding the nullification of the quorum in June 3 could also be the avenue for the Supreme Court to rule about this issue, yung threshold voting? Or kailangan may isa pa talagang mag-file ng petition? Kasi as of now, I don't think there is one.
Yes, tama ka doon. Angela, kasi ganito yan. Iba yung issue. Ang pinagtakal, kita mo yan. Balikan natin, total binanggit mo ng kaunti. Yung di ba? Dati, hindi, 12 yan. Kasi they've been recognized. But recognition is not validity. Mismong sila, alam nila na nakalagay sa saligang batas yun. Article 6, Section 16, first paragraph, na kailangan mo 13. Kita mo, it required a special session. Mismo sila. But of course, they will not say na, alam mo, ganito, acting Senate President. I will not go to those details. Tapos na ito eh. Pero ang punto, that's how the Constitution works. We could always hear the noise. We could always hear people giving their opinions. We respect that in a democracy. But at the end of the day, whatever the decision it's for our country. Diba? Hindi naman para sa isang grupo lang ito eh.
Right. But do you also agree with Attorney Makalintal saying na premature discussions daw yung voting threshold na usapan na ito and that it would unnecessarily delay the proceeding?
Ano yan with all due respect, di ko narinig yung opinion niya. Pero ganito yan. Alam mo, tutuloy at tutuloy naman ito Petition kaya hindi. Di-file nila ng petition. It's not a question of now. It's a question of, it's not even a question with all due respect with prematurity. The question is, will you file? And so that pagdating sa time na kailangan nila mag-vote, hinug na yon. And the Supreme Court would have a chance to resolve the same. We cannot, again, we cannot just like counter a statement of another person. But I think what's clear is that there is a vote. And the vote generally will have to be followed. Now, if they think that a vote, a different number will have to be followed, gamitin natin yun. Pumunta tayo sa Korte Suprema, hindi ba?
Attorney, before I let you go, I also want to ask you about the talks about the presiding officer, the possible presiding officer in the impeachment. Of course, narinig mo na to, na may possibility, it's Senator Cesca Litton-Kalaw. Why not him? Why not Senator Kiko Pangilinan? How important it is to have a lawyer as a presiding officer? Although sinasabi nga daw po sa rules, hindi naman kinakailangan na lawyer.
Hindi naman kinakailangan na basta may experience, may kakayanan. Pero kasi nga, liwanagin natin ayon sa rules nila. Ano ba sinasabi? Pag binasa mo ang konstitusyon, nakalagay lang ang mag-hear and try Senado. Di ba? Patapos doon, kung ang tinatry ay isang presidente ng Republika, Chief Justice, walang sinasabi ng Senado. Pero pag binuksan mo ang impeachment rules ng Senado, makikita mo doon na magpipreside Senate President. Subalit makailan lang, I am aware that there is Resolution 430 that now recognizes that upon a majority vote of the senators, they can vote among themselves who will be the presiding officer. So, pagbotohan nila si Senator Kiko or pagbotohan nila si Senator Escudero, nasa sa kanila yun. Ang importante, meron siyang procedural mechanism na i-allow yun. Hindi ko naman nakikita this will be very contentious.
Oo. Pero mabilis na lang po, attorney. Super bilis na lang. Kasi let's say, for example, kasi sinasabi nga nila, continuous pa rin magsa-struggle ang leadership dyan sa Senate dahil ang dami pa rin nilang issue. Let's say, for example, in the middle of the impeachment trial, nagpalit po ulit ng liderato ng Senado. Anong mangyayari dun sa presiding officer in case hindi po yung Senate President yung umupo as presiding officer?
Susundin natin. Ganito. Mabago na naman, mabago na naman. So kung nabago yan, naman, mababago Senate President, correct? Ako majority Ngayon, baka gusto nilang iba naman na mag-presiding officer o di magbotohan sila. Kasi nga meron na mechanism mechanism na sila na kinikilala. I don't think it will be very, very hard for them to do it. At hindi, makita mo naman, hindi ito masyadong nagbubungguan yung idea. Ang nagbubungguan ng idea yung 2/3. Kasi merong yan may mga reasons for, siyempre gusto ng prosecution mas mababa ang threshold. Ang gusto ng akusado yung 16, di ba?
Yes.
Yan.
Well, we will continue to get in touch with you regarding this issue. But for the meantime, thank you so much, Attorney Tranquil Salvador. Good morning.
Okay, good morning. Good morning sa lahat.
Now, more matters to discuss after this quick break. Keep it here on One News.
Good morning. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News.
Residents of San Jose del Monte, Bulacan are holding a protest in connection with an injunction granted to Prime Water that prevents the local government from taking over the city's water system. And for more details, let's bring in our mobile journalist, Fatima Baduria. Fatima, what's the latest there?
Pauline, kung makikita nyo sa likod ko, kasalukuyan ngang nagtitipon dito yung mga residente ng San Jose del Monte, Bulacan. Dito yan, along Quirino Highway sa San Jose del Monte. Panawagan nila ay palayasin ng Prime Water at alisin sa kanila yung pamamahala ng distribution ng tubig. Matapos yan ng kanilang mga matinding reklamo dahil kwento ng mga residente na nandito, nakausap ko yung ilan sa mga nasa likod ko, araw-araw daw nawawalan ng tubig sa kanila at babalik lang yung tubig ng gabi hanggang umaga. Mga 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. daw babalik mula sa 11 p.m. na pagkakabalik ng tubig. So, imbis na matulog sila, gigising daw sila ng maaga at yun lang daw yung oras na meron sila para makapag-ipon ng tubig. So talagang nahihirapan dito yung mga residente dahil nga kung hindi sila makakapag-ipon ng tubig, buong araw naman silang walang pangdigo, paghugas ng mga pinggan. So ngayon ay isinasagawa yung kanilang kilos protesta laban sa prime water at kamakailan nga lang naglabas ng preliminary injunction ng pabor sa prime water. Itong injunction kasi na ito, parang post button, no? Sa naunang balak ng takeover ng San Jose del Monte LGU sa water system ng prime water at yung operator nito. Matapos yan ang pagdeklara ng state of emergency ng LGU noong Mayo dahil nga sa reklamo ng mga residente na madalas walang tubig. Ngayon, nananatiling prime water pa rin ang may hawak sa water system ng SJDM pero patuloy na ipinaglalaban niya ng mga residente dito na mapalitan na yung operator nila. Pauline.
So Fatima, hanggang ngayon wala pa rin nagbabago doon sa water system operations ng Prime Water. Hindi pa rin ito bumabalik sa normal?
Yes, Pauline, yun nga yung mga kwento ng residente dito ay talagang araw-araw pa rin. At ilang taon na daw yan. Sabi nung isang nakausap ko mga around 5 years na daw nilang na-experience ito at araw-araw talagang na doon sa mga areas na matataas, no? Doon naman sa mga mabababang areas, nakakatanggap pa naman daw ng tubig. Yun nga lang daw ay madumi at minsan may mga bulate pa. So ang ginagawa daw nila sila na mismo yung naglilinis ng tubig at talagang pinifilter nila, no, para kahit papano ay may pangligo kaysa naman daw wala silang magamit na tubig. Pero yun nga, talagang patuloy pa rin na pinaglalaban ng mga residente kasi initially akala nila ay mag-take over na yung LGU ng SJTM, no, pero natigil nga ito dahil dun sa injunction na inilabas ng Regional Trial Court last week lang, Pauline.
Okay, so Fatima, ano na mangyayari dun sa takeover plans ng local government at may naging tugon na ba sila doon nga sa naging desisyon ng korte?
Sa ngayon ay natigil talaga yung planong iyan, no, habang gumugulong pa yung kaso. So sa ngayon habang wala pang resolusyon doon sa kaso, mananatiling hawak ng prime water yung distribution ng tubig dito sa San Jose del Monte. At mamaya susubukan nating makapanayam din yung mga mula sa LGU ng SJDM kung ano ba yung kanilang pahayag dito, Pauline.
All right, thank you very much for that report. That was mobile journalist Fatima Baduria.
In other news, samahang basketball ng Pilipinas, President Ricky Vargas is set to appear at the CIDG amid the probe into the deaths of 2 Ateneo players. For the details, let's bring in mobile journal Jazz Paredes. Jazz, go ahead.
Yes, Angela, no, nandito nga tayo sa headquarters ng PNP at upang abangan itong pagdating ni samahang basketball ng Pilipinas President Ricky Vargas upang ikanyang dahil nga ito sa imbitasyon sa kanya ng PNP sa ADG upang isalaysay din ng kanyang salaysay ang ilang mga detalye na makatutulong sa fact-finding investigation kaugnay nga ng pagkasawi ng insidente ng pagkalunod ni Rene Baterbonia at Divine Adidi. Sa ngayon, Angela, no, wala pa tayong nakukuhang malalim na impormasyon kung ano yung kanyang purpose ng pagpunta dito at kung ano yung mga posibleng pag-usapan dito sa tanggapan. Ngunit kung matatandaan natin, Angela, no, sa naging investigasyon ng CIDG kaugnay nga nitong insidente ni Adidi at Baterbonia ay ilang mga personalidad na ang kanilang ipinatawag sa tanggapan ng CIDG mula day 1 at ngayon masasabi nating ika-6 na araw na, no? Matauna nga dyan, top management ng Ateneo, former players, current players, at pati na rin ang coaching staff. At ngayon naman ay ang isa sa mga samahan ng basketball ng Pilipinas. Although we're still waiting mula sa SLG mismo, DLG Secretary John Vic Rimulya, kung ano yung kanilang mga mapag-uusapan at ano yung magiging takbo ng investigasyon nila ngayong araw. At recap lamang din, Angela, no, noong Friday ay inabangan din natin ang paglabas ni dating Ateneo head coach Tab Baldwin kung saan ay mula 8 AM ay nakita natin 11 PM ay hindi pa siya nakakalabas sa tanggapan ng CIDG. Although hindi natin na-confirm mula kay CIDG Director Alexander Morico kung ano yung mga napag-usapan kung bakit ito tumagal ng hanggang late ng gabi, ay ang sabi lamang niya sa atin ay hindi lamang daw itong kanilang inaasikaso na kaso sa CIDG. Ngunit hindi siya nagbigay ng komento kung ano yung napag-usapan at kung bakit ito tumagal. Sa ngayon, aabangan natin, Angela, yung magiging posibleng press briefing with the Edu Secretary John Vic Rimulya upang makakuha tayo ng mas malalim na updates kung ano na yung kanilang nakuha mula sa investigasyon nila mula day 1 hanggang day 6. Angela.
Jazz, one question lang, do you have any information kung pinababalik pa ba dyan sila Coach Tab Baldwin para sa kanilang investigation?
Angela, sa ngayon hindi pa tayo nakakakuha ng impormasyon kaugnay dyan kung papatawag bang muli dito sa tanggapan ng CADG itong si dating head coach Tab Baldwin. Ngunit isa yan sa mga nais nating alamin sa magiging press briefing mamaya with Secretary Rimulya. Angela.
All right, thank you so much, Mobile Journal, Jazz Paredes.
Alex Ayala's impressive campaign at the Berlin Tennis Open came to an end after she was defeated by world number 13 Linda Noskova of the Czech Republic in the semifinals. Noskova showcased her elite form, producing 33 winners and 9 aces to overcome Ayala's challenge and secure the victory. Despite the setback, Ayala's Berlin run marked a historic milestone as she reached her first ever WTA 500 semifinal, defeating top-ranked opponents Elena Rybakina and Elina Svitolina along the way. Adding to her breakthrough season, Ayala is set to achieve another career milestone by entering Wimbledon as a seeded player for the first time. Stay tuned, Morning Matters returns after a quick break. Good morning, I'm Cesca Litton-Kalaw. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. As we know, data from the DOST Food and Nutrition Research Institute shows that child stunting in the Philippines rose to 25% in 2025, marking the first increase in a decade. The figure means that about 1 in 4 Filipino children under 5 is affected by chronic malnutrition, resulting in impaired growth and development. The 2025 rate is 1.7 percentage points higher than in 2023 and now falls within the World Health Organization's classification of a high public health concern. The Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM-2, warned that the increase could worsen the country's learning crisis.
And now to talk more about this matter, we are joined by George De La Rama, Head of Advocacy and Communications of Child Fund Philippines. Good morning, George, and thanks for joining us here on Morning Matters.
Good morning, Pauline and Cesca and Angela, and to all your viewers.
All right. Well, first of all, George, this is a very serious matter. We're talking about children here. But first, what do you make of the latest data showing that stunting among Filipino children is now rising to about 25% in 2025? From an education standpoint, how concerning is this trend?
This is quite an emergency because when stunting increases to 25.3%, it means that 1 out of 4 Filipino children is entering a world already left behind, fighting an invisible battle that their own bodies and brains even before they even step into the classroom. So it's not just about being short for their age. It's actually the physical manifestation of chronic undernutrition, and that the latest data reported shows that despite various economic efforts, our most vulnerable children are sliding backward. So it also means that the critical first 1,000 days of a child's life are still, unfortunately, largely unaddressed for a quarter of our population.
George, what are the agencies and institutions that come into play with a problem like this, and what roles do they play?
Yes, in this kind of situation, we are looking, of course, at the Department of Education, the Department of Health, the Department of Social Welfare and Development. And within these organizations, there must be an institutional collaboration because the nutrition tracking should be seamless, and it should follow a child from from the healthy stages of life from 0 to 4. So what we would want for them to do, Sana, is for them to really break the silos in working in this collective issue that the whole of society and the government should address.
All right, George, let's try to paint a clearer picture here. If a child enters school already facing developmental setbacks due to poor nutrition, due to malnutrition, how does this exactly affect their day-to-day learning? What does this look like inside the classroom?
Yes. Well, first, you cannot feed a mind if you are starving the brain. So stunting permanently impairs brain development, making it incredibly difficult for a child to keep up academically. So stunting creates cognitive delay. So during the first few years of life, if the brain during the first years of life, the brain develops rapidly, no, but undernutrition slows it. So stunted children struggle with memory, concentration, and problem solving. So as highlighted, I remember if as highlighted in the EDCOM 2 final report, the health and nutrition gaps create lifelong barriers to learning. By the time a stunted child enters the first grade, they are already at a massive disadvantage compared to their well-nourished peers. No? So because of this, there is likelihood of higher school dropouts. Stunted children are more likely to repeat grade levels they are being trapped into a cycle of this issue exacerbated by poverty and other inequalities.
Well, George, right now, so we do have stunted children currently in schools already. So how do schools adjust to this? How do schools address this?
Yes, schools should be our front lines. They are not just spaces for textbooks. They are the early warning systems for child survival and holistic development. So if schools have the infrastructure to regularly measure height and weight, they should be able to make those spaces reliable for children, for them to be able to identify severe wasting and stunting early on. And also, that's the reason why in Child Fund, we emphasize that a child needs to be healthy to learn safely. As schools can serve as a hub where education, health, and social welfare intersect. And beyond academics, schools are where we teach social and emotional learning, or what we call SEL. So a child who is hungry cannot emotionally regulate or focus. So schools must address the physical hunger first before they can address academic and emotional growth.
All right, so let's talk about interventions inside the school first. What are some of the programs that you believe are the most effective in treating this, in addressing this problem, right? We have school feeding programs. These are interventions that have long been there in our education system. But are they enough, George? Are they enough to address this problem, simply feeding students in school?
Yes, school feeding programs are vital, yes, but and of course we recognize them for what they are and what they provide at the moment. But while they are important for the many vulnerable children, the meal that they get at school is only nutritious as it is at that moment. But what we are advocating for is for schools and the whole of society to realize that stunting happens before a child even reaches school. So that is the reason why we are advocating for the strict and stronger implementation of the first 1,000 days law, because the moment a child is conceived, the nutrients that the mom eats already or takes, and until the child gets born, and until the first, that's the way it's 1,000 days until the next 2 years of the child. These are critical stages of life where the development of the brain and the body happens. So ang gusto lang namin sabihin is that hindi dapat magtapos or hindi final solution ang feeding program. There must be a concrete system where children and their families can access health and nutrition services without any delay and without any discrimination, para mas nako-cover yung mga health needs nila.
George, are there any programs for expectant mothers? Because not everyone has the time to prepare healthy meals. Not everyone has access to healthy ingredients.
Yes, there should be. Actually, the government is actually implementing naman the first 1,000 days. But I think it's also critical that the pregnant moms or expecting moms know where they can access the services, no, for health and nutrition. But also, well, it's a reality that hindi lahat ng areas in the Philippines are equally accessible, no? So there are those who are living in far-flung areas or hard to reach areas na talagang hindi nila ma-access yung proper health and nutrition services that they deserve. Kaya that's also one of our calls for the government to ensure that hindi lang sa ilang areas lang na achieve or na access itong mga health and nutrition services, so mga maternal health care and nutrition service dapat sa buong bansa, no? So dapat may increase in coverage and funding and yung quality ng services dapat ma-ensure na hindi lang to attendance-based monitoring para lang for compliance na may nagawa yung government. No, they should go even beyond the work that they're doing kasi marami pang nangangailangan ng kanilang serbisyo when it comes to health, which of course impacts children.
Right, because the survey also shows that nearly 17% of pregnant women are nutritionally at risk. George, what should mothers understand about how their maternal health and nutrition also influences their child's growth, their learning outcomes later on?
That's true. I mean, I think this is a very important task for everyone to let the mothers, pregnant and expecting moms, and even those who just gave birth, to know that whatever they take inside their body, the food intake, the nutritional value of that matter a lot because it provides kind of development, or it leads to the kind of development that their children will be when they grow up, no? So it is important for them to know na dapat kumakain sila ng mga nutritious na pagkain, at kung hindi sila makahanap kaagad, dapat alam nila or maturuan sila ano yung mga alternate ways of eating healthier or of having a healthier diet while they are pregnant or after giving birth, no? Unfortunately nga yun, so dapat na-access nila yon, kaso nga hindi sa lahat ng oras there are services like that, kaya naman dapat may mga interventions na nanggagaling sa iba pang mga sectors that can help them, no? Yung simpleng pagkain ng mga alternate meals, kasi mahal naman talaga yung healthy meals, di ba? Aminin natin yan. Pero if they are, for example, tinuruan sila magtanim ng gulay or something para yun na maging alternate food nila, that would greatly help. Maliit na bagay pero malaking tulong para sa kinabukasan at paglaki ng kanilang mga anak.
But George, once the child reaches school, syempre not all parents makakabigay ng baon. Or when the child is in school during recess or lunch break, they have a limited amount of time to eat. So they reach for the easy food, the fast food. How would you encourage these children to make the healthier choice?
True. Actually, you're right about that. The most accessible food are usually the ones that are most unhealthy, yung mga fast food, junk foods, ganyan. Kasi mura, tas readily available. So, for schools, I think the responsibility falls also on them, no? Since nasa kanila lumalaki yung mga bata, sa kanila nag-i-stay sa a portion of the day of the child is spent inside the school. The school should also do some effort. Schools should also do some effort in promoting healthy living within their schools. So there are some schools, for example, that we commend kasi in their own ways nagkakaroon sila ng, let's say, vertical gardening. So meron silang sariling mga gardens where they can grow vegetables na yun yung sinaserve nila sa mga students nila, yun sa canteens nila, ganyan. Tapos syempre nandun pa rin yung tuloy-tuloy na health and nutrition awareness na sana nanggagaling rin sa school, no? Pero I think some schools also need that learning kasi baka sa kanila, syempre, task nila is just to deliver the academic requirements of the child, pero nakakaligtaan nila that there are also health and nutrition requirements that come along with it. So sana yung mga schools rin would be capacitated to be able to support the health and nutrition needs of their learners. So hindi siya madali, but it can be done kasi nagagawa naman siya, and it's not a new concept. It's something na nandyan naman na yun nga lang, kailangan lang talaga ng investment within the local government, and yun talaga may funding para makapag-allocate ng substantial resources for them to be able to implement those kinds of health and nutrition initiatives.
Right, because a huge part of the problem is also this information gap, right? But I also wanted to focus on affordability, George, right? If we're talking about the nutritional value of the food that children are eating, we know that many families are struggling with costs, especially with the prices nowadays, right, with the economy. But if you could give any suggestions to families, what are some essential but affordable food items that could be given to children, especially during this critical period in their lives, the first 1,000 days?
Yes. So, una, we would like to recommend na i-assess ng mga parents yung kanilang surroundings, no? If there is something that they can plant sa kanilang sariling bakuran so that they can grow vegetables or any other healthier alternatives, that would be one easier step, no? Tapos, syempre, as much as possible, we know that mahal talaga yung mga healthy alternatives, no? Kaya natin pinopromote yung sana mas mag-explore sila ng healthier options. Kumbaga, wag basta-basta lang bumili sa labas. Kung mag-i-invest na rin naman sila sa pagkain, mag-invest na sila sa mas healthier na food. They can also reach out to the local government, to the barangays, kasi baka yung mga barangays can also provide seedlings or anything that they can use, no? Or if they have mga supplements that the barangay can provide, pwedeng pa din nilang puntahan, basta lapitan lang nila. It pays to know na may mga serbisyo na napo-provide yung government and yung mga local barangays natin. There are also organizations out there that help them, no, in terms of health and nutrition. So may mga sectors na responsive rin to their needs. So it's just a matter of knowing how to reach out to them as well. Pero inside the home, syempre iwasan talaga yung pagbili ng mga processed food. Mahal na nga yun, tas hindi pa healthy. So kung pwedeng piliin na lang yung mas healthier option like mga gulay, fish, or anything that can provide the necessary nutrients that a young child would need, yun talaga yung marirecommend namin. And of course, syempre, again, hindi ito magagawa ng isang tao lang. The government should also intervene on this one. Hindi lalo na tumataas ang commodity and prices ngayon. Sana the government can also regulate prices sa ating mga sa market, no, para naman maka-adjust, maka-adapt yung ating mga kapuspalad na mga parents, mga magulang, lalo na yung mga nagbubuntis at kapapanganak pa lamang.
George, aside from possibly regulating prices, no, are there any laws that regulate the quality, the standard of food served in school cafeterias?
Not sure about that, but I think that should be part of, a portion of that is covered by the first 1,000 days law, where nandun yung mga recommended na na dapat na intake ng mga nutritional intake ng mga bata, ano yung mga pwedeng kainin, ganyan. But if there is none at the local government level, baka dapat yun yung mga ginagawa ng ordinances, or at least inaaral na mabuti together with the government agencies and other sectors para naman makabuo na isang comprehensive plan on how to address those issues and be able to cater to the needs of these children and parents.
Well, George, the survey also shows that stunting is actually higher in rural areas compared to urban areas, and the highest rates here are in Barm, in Zamboanga Peninsula, Negros Island, and even Mimaropa. Now, with that said, do you think that our education interventions and reforms should be tailored geographically differently across different regions?
I think that should be nilo-localize natin kasi hindi naman siya one size fits all, no. We cannot use parang a cookie cutter approach to fix a crisis that has distinct geographical boundaries, no. Well, equity means giving children what they need, no, not giving every child the exact same thing. So in rural areas, you're right, the barriers are often about the physical access, severe poverty, and lack of diverse food supplies, leading to syempre, higher stunting. But in urban areas, the challenges might lean more toward congested living spaces, poor sanitation, or artificial processed food dependency. So we should not lower academic expectations for rural children because every child deserves naman the right to develop critical thinking and modern skills. No? Pero yung delivery system nila, yung education must adapt. No? So how to tailor fit it, siguro I'm thinking yung resource allocation, dapat dito yung rural schools need heavier investments, for example, in agricultural education integration, like yung nababanggit kanina, school gardening or feeding the community or community programs, a stronger partnership with local agricultural councils. And then sa rural areas naman, maybe schools should act as, mga health hubs that integrate directly with local rural health units, mga RHUs, to catch children in those critical ages of 0 to 4 years of childhood, no, before they even experience stunting. Tapos, yung nabanggit ko kanina, sa local governance, we really believe that the government and communities need the flexibility to run smart strategies. I think that's one thing that nagkukulang sa government right now, yung pagiging strategic, no? Yung to make it more fit to the specific terrain rather than waiting for a blanket mandate from a certified national office or something. So I think a child in a remote mountain or coastal village, for example, deserves the same exact quality of future na nararanasan ng mga child, let's say in Metro Manila or in other advanced cities. But to get them there, we have to acknowledge that the rural child's ladder needs a few more steps of health and nutritional support.
George, is it still possible for a stunted child to be able to catch up to his or her peers?
Well, while we say na tawag dito, it's irreversible, it is indeed irreversible. Pero when we are able to provide the child more concretely yung mga pangangailangan nito, kung sabihin na natin na kinulang man sa height, pero kung hindi naman siya kinulang sa pagmamahal at atensyon at ng mga pangangailangan na gagamitin niya para sa kanyang paglaki, sa kanyang pagdevelop, I think there is always a hope naman. Hindi naman nagtatapos dahil lang sa hindi nabigyan ng nutrisyon at an early age na maayos yung bata, hanggang dun na lang siya. And that's the reason why naniniwala kami that we need each other in doing this. Kasi hindi dapat nagtatapos sa ganong stage ng buhay yung bata. Dapat nito, kung alam na natin na nagkulang tayo, then let's do our best para tugunan yung mga pwede nating ibigay pa sa bata. No? Maaari naman matuto pa rin yung bata, hindi naman huli ang lahat. Kaya pa naman yan as long as ibigay sa kanya yung proper learning, access to health and nutrition, access to skills development, things like that, na integrated, na coordinated, na concerted effort that would still help a child to grow healthier, educated, skilled, and safe.
All right. And on that note, thank you very much for your time and for sharing your insights with us this morning. That was George De La Rama, Head of Advocacy and Communications of Child Fund Philippines. Thanks, George.
Thank you so much.
All right, now don't go away because Morning Matters will be back after this short break. Keep it here.
Good morning mga kapatid. You're still watching Morning Matters.
Right, now that will do it for us for today's news. But before we go, let's talk about some of our key takeaways from today's stories. Angela?
Yeah, so I got to interview Attorney Chongkil Salvador, who was one of the lawyers of the late Justice Chief Renato Corona. And we talked about, of course, the main issue in the impeachment case of Vice President Sara Duterte. And he said, of course, on the issue of threshold voting, he said that it's better na lang to file a petition to Supreme Court so that the Supreme Court can actually finally rule on that one. Para wala na tayo mga what if like this, what if like that, yung mga ganun. But of course, overall, political and legal development, we can see that it greatly affect the public, diba? The public's trust, the public's the economy, diba? So, we'll see what's going to happen. Kasi whether we talk about impeachment here or the tensions in the Middle East, talagang it would have a great impact, diba, on our lives.
And the pre-trial conference is already underway. We will be closely monitoring that. For now, that will do it for us here on Morning Matters.
That wraps up today's episodes of Morning Matters. I'm Angela Lagunzad-Castro.
We hope we've given you just the right start to your morning. I'm Cesca Litton-Kalaw.
Let's make the day matter. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Kapatid, we are One News.
All sides,
all the time.